I know some of you out there who know someone who's in a relationship and they're dependent on the other. Heck, maybe even you're that person who's depending on someone. Someone relying on the existence of another for their own personal gain and or needs. Let's be real. Sometimes people stay in these sort of relationships because of children, financial stability, the amount of time invested, or fear of being shamed. Let's not get it twisted. These relationships don't always have to be romantic. Some can be familial, business-oriented, or even platonic. Some might think that it's obvious. No, these are not healthy. But today, we'll look into some of these situations with a professional eye and come up with a better understanding to these relationships. And maybe someone out there will have the courage to break the cycle. Stay tuned. You're right here on Courtney's Corner. Thank you for joining me. Today we are discussing codependent relationships. What are they? Why do people get in them? And how do we get out of them if, in fact, a person chooses to? Joining me today is the author of Covenant. Everybody welcome Lisa Stevenson. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Have a seat. All right, so tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what was the inspiration behind Covenant?
Well, Covenant is a book that's comprised of 3 short stories, and the very last story is called Oxygen. And I named that story Oxygen because I myself was in a codependent relationship, and I felt like I was suffocating when I was in it. And when I came out of it, I felt like I was coming up for air, and therefore I needed oxygen.
Right.
So my main character, her name is Kayla, and she's pretty much enduring everything that I went through with that last relationship, from the domestic violence to the infidelity, and just much more. Just me feeling like I was losing myself because it was such a toxic situation.
So how do you, where are the signs of this? Because most times we ignore these red flags when they're in the beginning. So when did you notice that this person was just like dependent upon you? You know what I mean?
The interesting thing about that is with codependency, it's an addiction.
Yes.
And pretty much the person wasn't really depending on me as much as I was becoming dependent on them. I was actually the person who was codependent. And one of the things that people don't seem to understand is that they don't recognize when they themselves are the codependent individual.
Yes.
So if you don't recognize it, then you pretty much can't do anything to fix it. And I started becoming that way after my injury when I was in the military. And
let's talk a little bit about that. What happened?
Sure. Well, I was enlisted, and I was there for, I think, approximately about 4 or 5 months. I was in basic training. And I was injured. I was doing the Victory Tower.
Yes.
And I fell right off and dislocated my ankle. And, you know, when I returned home, I was back in New York, and I was in a relationship at the time, and I just felt like I really needed my partner. And it was to the point where I started to feel insecure, and then I just ended up needing him more than I needed freedom. I needed to love myself more. I needed to respect myself more. And the funny thing about that is he started to pull away.
Because of your codependency upon him.
Codependency, yes.
Wow. So it's like you come home, you expect to get, you know, this love and affection and attention that in case you need, because you suffered such a, you know, a illness, you know, you broke something. You know, not like as if you came home and was like, forget that girl, I ain't going back there. You know what I mean? Like you came back hurt. And how did you find yourself depending upon him because you didn't have the means to go back out and go back, or because you couldn't find another job? How did it start?
Well, I wasn't really depending on him financially, thank God. It was just more so, you know, to take my medicine or to, you know, drive me to PT and things like that. He was pretty much just a ghost. And you know, I was calling more, I was texting more, I was just needing him more. And, you know, with codependency, we tend to mistake love for pity.
Right.
You know, at some point, I pretty much got into that relationship because I thought that I fell in love with someone.
And he was pitying you.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then, you know, I fell in love with somebody who, in the beginning of our relationship, I pitied him. You know, so it was pretty much like, you know, as women, you know, you want to fix something.
Yes.
When we get into relationships with men, we get into a lot of these relationships because we want to fix them.
Yes.
You know, that's what we gravitate towards.
First mistake.
Broken men. And then, you know, you mistake love for pity.
Yes.
Because every woman wants, you know, to be the golden ticket. They want that man to say, I'm a better man because of her.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly you get this man, he's like, oh, I'm gonna make him Denzel or Will Smith. And he's definitely brother man from the fifth floor. Heard. Copy that.
And so, you know, initially going into this relationship, that's where the codependency started. So, you know, as the relationship transgressed and then I became injured, it just took a turn for the worse. It became toxic.
And how long was this relationship? How long did it last?
We were together for about 4 years. Well, we were together in my mind for 4 years. I think in his mind it was maybe like 2.5 years. You know, he started doing him.
So when did you come out of this? Like, did you realize it, or did somebody say, "Hey, you wildin'"?
To be honest with you, like, a lot of people from, you know, my friends and my family members never liked him the moment I brought him home. And I ignored them. And, you know, the reason I kind of ignored them was because, once again, I loved him for the brokenness.
Yes.
You know, I loved him because I felt like he was transparent. You know, and it actually turned out that that wasn't really the case. So, you know, I didn't listen. I stayed, and then he ended up leaving because he cheated and fathered a child with someone else.
Oh, wow.
So then it was just like, and then I found out on Facebook, so I was just like, you know what, I got it. Some of the ways that you can recognize signs of codependency is, first and foremost, you have to know what codependency is.
Yes.
You have to be able to define it, and then you have to be able to determine whether or not some of those traits apply to your life. And some of those traits are like lying, dishonesty, pretty much just wanting to do everything or wanting to be controlling, pretty much not trusting another person to get the job done.
Right.
You know,
there are so many different signs, right? Because some could be considered leeching too.
It depends on the circumstances. I mean, like I said, you know, women were taught at a very young age that we're supposed to be with men who are supposed to be the providers, and therefore a lot of women, you know, they don't work or they're stay-at-home moms, and, you know, as far as men controlling the finances and things like that. So it creates a dynamic where codependency is needed. But then, you know, in that particular case, you have to try to figure out what type of relationship you're actually looking to have.
Right.
Do you want a relationship where it's a 50-50 commitment? Do you want a relationship where, you know, the man is the primary caretaker or the provider, so to speak? Do you want a relationship, you know, where the woman is the primary caretaker and the provider? So, you know, you really have to decide the type of relationship that you want. And this is why, like, I preach about dating. I preach about getting to know someone. In my opinion, I feel like people should date from like 3 to 6 months. You know, ask the tough questions, get to know, you know, their minds, get to know what they're looking for, what they're not looking for, dive into their past, and, you know, just really get an understanding of how they hope to have their relationship. You know, what kind of dynamics they're looking to have set up. And, you know, codependency, like I said, it's good and it's bad. A lot of people can't really deal with it, and so they end up leaving the situation. And then a lot of other people, they end up cheating or, you know, other things like that that just become detrimental. So, I mean, once you recognize the signs, once you actually can be able to pinpoint where you rank pretty much.
And the codependent, level,
on the rank, you figure out what level you're on.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to pinpoint these signs.
Yeah, it took some time.
But you're here. You're here on the couch, so you've come a long way. Let's dive into covenant. So how did you prepare to put this together? Like, who did you speak to besides yourself? What type of research did you do to come up with this?
All right, so the crazy part is when my ex and I broke up, I started to Google like a mad woman. I mean, I was Googling everything. I was Googling levels of infidelity, why it happened, fathering kids, how to forgive, how to, just how to stay sane, and I came across like so many different articles, so many different stories. And at the time when I was actually writing that, it's funny because him and I, we were like corresponding at one point while I was working on the book, and I kept like replaying all the things that he did, because as women, when a man cheats, initially you're like, okay, you know what, I'll forgive you. Yes. And then as time progresses,
all the other things.
Let me tell you about them flashbacks.
Yes.
Right?
It becomes acrimony up in there.
Oh, you start replaying everything in your mind, and then more questions come, and then more anger comes, and then you start to go on this emotional roller coaster. Well, I was on that roller coaster. Like, he was calling me bipolar at some point, because I didn't know when I was going to snap. So it was just like, in that moment, he got really upset with me. He's like, I'm tired of hearing about this sad Bronx story. So I was like, oh, okay.
Skirt, right up to the house. Say it again.
I took my sad Bronx story
and turned it into covenant.
Wrote about it. It's like, well, now we gonna really hear about it. Everybody's gonna know what you did.
Well, I'm happy you were able to put your anger into a book and not put hands on him. I think that's another episode that we can dive into. We get you a little therapist, you know what I'm saying? But what advice can you give to people who are going through codependency issues, who are going through infidelity issues? What advice can you give them while reading this book?
One of the most important things that I can say to anyone who's dealing with a codependent relationship, step out of it for a while. Take a step back, give yourself time to not be in a relationship. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you're codependent, it's because you're accustomed to having validation from somebody else. And so, you do have to recognize that and step out of it and enjoy singledom.
Yes.
Because when you're single, then you have time to develop your own independence, become confident with yourself, and then you know the things that your boundaries. You develop your standards. And then it's kind of, it's harder for people to just come into your life. And
in your space.
In your space and just make things tumultuous. So you want to have more control over yourself when you're a codependent individual. And once you can master that, then you can go out and then you can date in a healthy way. And you can actually ask the questions that you're supposed to be asking while dating to avoid the drama. The same red flags that we ignore in the beginning are the same red flags that rear their ugly heads 4 years later, 5 years later. And by then, you're already emotionally invested. So it becomes a lot harder, to come out. Children become involved. So it's just like, before you dive into that, before you alter your life in such a way, learn the dynamics of codependency, develop, your own knowledge, and pretty much work on yourself.
Well, thank you so much for that. We'll be right back with more Lisa Stevenson. With me now is the beautiful couple, Diego Cali and Patricia Garcia. Thank you so much for being here and joining me and this wonderful Lisa. So let's talk about it. How long have you two been together?
For 3 years now.
Okay. When did you two meet, if you don't mind me asking? Sorry.
Well, the exact date that I remember, we met through a dating app.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was recently a month out of a relationship where I found out through social media that he was seeing someone else behind my back. So I went right into dating apps. That's where I met him, my ex. So I was like, let me try this a second time.
Right.
See how my luck will change this time. So a month of the dating app, having multiple guys just talking nonsense, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get rid of this, get out of this. This is pointless. But the moment that I was about to delete it, he messaged me in a very polite, gentleman-like way.
I remember the time at 1:04 p.m.
Let's get them times right. Okay, so you decided after so much time together, we're gonna make this official, right? So now 3 years down the line, you've been together. So we talked about this earlier during our meeting. So when was the point where you were like, you know what? Someone is starting to depend on me just a little bit too much. How did that start? And who noticed first?
I noticed it first. It was during a very hard time. I will say we were in 6-7 months into our relationship, and he went through where he got let go of the job in which he was working when I met him. I told him, I'm like, let's try to find some other place, but he was super down on himself, very negative about himself. So I was there to help him to be positive.
Yes.
And, being the girl that, that needs to stick up for her man, to be there by his side and all.
Yes.
So during that time, it was like asking me, can you help me do a resume? I don't know how to do a cover letter. Can you do this for me? And this, since I worked at the time part-time at the New York City College of Technology, now I'm a supervisor there. I had a computer. I'm like, okay, of course, babe, yeah.
Yes.
Use my outline. I'm going to, do this, that. Tell me all your experience, which I did cover letters, helped them. And he's like, can you help me apply through Indeed, ZipRecruiter, through this and that, which open-heartedly I did. And it just kept going through there. It seemed like he just didn't feel confident in doing things for himself, because he always kept saying, I don't know how to do this. What happens if I mess up? Maybe I won't get anywhere. So from there, I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you, this and that. And that went through the majority of our relationship, actually.
So Lisa, those are some of the signs that we were talking about. Am I correct? Like just talk about this a little bit. Like those are the signs, like just not being able to feel confident in yourself.
Yes.
So does that where
he just became reliant on her, and I think that was pretty much because, like you said, he was like, he didn't have confidence in himself to get it done, and that's actually pretty like normal, for when it comes to men especially. Yeah. Sometimes when they're in relationships with women, you will send a guy to go and fetch an item, and he will come back and tell you that the item is not there. And you'll tell a woman to go get the exact same item, and she will go and locate it. So it's kind of just like, for some odd reason, I guess he was just put in a position where he felt more confident in her and her ability to actually get the job done. But then you have to respect the fact that she doesn't want to be the mom. She wants to be the girlfriend, and, it's a fine line between that.
But now she was saying just now that, okay, fine. So does that also play a part? Like it's accepting, okay, well, I'm not going to say anything right now.
Yes, because she's allowing it. But then at the same time, she's allowing it because she doesn't want there to be any kind of repercussions. So, in a healthy way, you do have to advocate to this individual, to your boyfriend, and say, hey, you know what? Why don't you do it, babe? And I think that you're just as good. I think that you're going to, do it even better than I can probably do it. Encourage him. Don't just be so quick to say, hey, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it.
So then that goes into what's saying. So when were you like, you know what, enough? I can't keep.
The thing is that the reason why he was like this is that he did open up to me more, and it's about the way he was raised. I don't know if you want to talk more into that.
Yeah. Basically, the way I was raised, I never had a father figure. Well, I had a father figure only to a certain point. To a certain point that he did something to my family that traumatized me in a way. I don't want to explain too much in detail.
Just fine.
But he did something that traumatized me in a way. That, as my mom always told me, you know, raise your kids in a proper way. Because if you raise them in an improper way, they're going to copy everything that your parents are going to do.
Right.
So basically, in a way, that's what my father did in a way. He was dependent on my mom. And he just went from there. So
then that kind of made you just take that trait and just continue going on into life?
To me, I thought that was right. Since I was young, I didn't know what codependency was at that point. As soon as I was growing up, I was starting to be more dependent on my mom. So as more time went on, I was more dependent on her.
Right. So then you meet Patricia, and it's like you love her, but that's become the same thing you've done with your mom to Patricia, right? So when do we label that? When do you say, you know what, he's just dependent too much on me now? How do I stop this?
Well, to be honest, we had our ups and downs, and a few months back, we actually separated. We did. We kept it very low key. We were separated for like, I would say a month.
Almost a month, yeah.
Almost a month, because he was going through so much stress with his new work. I was going stress for family stuff, for my own personal things, and we just needed our space. We needed our space, and we both communicated to why we needed, what was leading up to it, and we went from there. Of course, we were both mad at each other because of it ending.
So was it like a blame game?
It wasn't a blame game. It wasn't. It's just that, like we mentioned I always mention the beginning of a relationship is that I wanted to be 50-50. Let us make a balance. But as time went on, it was sort of like 80-20. And I was already fed up with it. He was somewhat fed up with it as well. And so we separated. And then we actually started going back into dating apps to sort of
give a new perspective.
To delete our past and just move forward with someone new.
Right.
But thankfully, I would say that it brought us more closer together, because we realized that I went on a few dates, he went on a few dates, but no spark, nothing, no attraction, no chemistry. The only person I kept thinking was Diego.
Yes.
And I've never felt that way about any guy. He's the third person I ever dated in my life.
Oh, wow.
And so I just knew he was the one. And that's why you don't see me with the ring yet, but we're actually...
Congratulations. Congratulations. So, Lisa, in some cases, do people need to separate and kind of reevaluate themselves?
Which is what I mentioned earlier, that singledom. When you realize that the codependency is like making its way into the relationship, you kind of have to step back so that you can take your emotions out of it and you can start to view the relationship from a logical standpoint. Because when you're in it, you're so emotional that emotion clouds your judgment. It becomes complicated, you know, but then when you come out of it and you take a step back and then you do some self-reflecting, he probably realized, hey, you know, I don't want this person to feel like I'm a burden to them. And for a man, that's a lot, because then that's a hit to his ego, you know, so he decided, you know, okay, I'm going to step out as well because he needs to do some self-reflecting. And then he was able to acknowledge the fact that his dad was also dependent on his mom. So he's seeing, you know, where the traits are coming in, like where that pattern is coming in. So now that you see the pattern, you have to consciously try to break it. You know, you can't just go into this situation or go into your relationship and then marriage with the same type of mindset, especially knowing that it didn't work out with your parents.
Well, I'm excited that you guys are getting engaged. Please send my invite. I'll send you my email, all that good stuff, because I want to be there for this. So where are you now? Now that you guys have gone through the separation, you know, you've actually, I'm pretty sure, discussed these things that needed to be discussed. It's open and honest, you know, communication. So what are you doing about this now? How are we making changes so that way this can be a lifelong relationship and healthy?
Well, we did make communication, being clear about our feelings, key point.
Yes.
Because during the point where we separated is that we kept our feelings to each other a lot. We just kept holding into what we were feeling, the frustration, the stressfulness, and coming back together, we both cried it out to each other and everything, saying what we truly feel, what we need to fix, how to make us stay together, because I honestly don't want to see myself with anyone else but him.
Right.
And I know he feels the same way, because not only in the relationship was he codependent on me, I know that I was codependent on him. Not financially and such, but for the fact that I grew up with both of my parents, unlike him. But I wasn't comfortable depending on my parents as of having the rock that I needed to feel comfortable about, oh, I'm going through this problem. I was never comfortable
talking to them.
Yeah, because my parents felt or looked at me as like their perfect child. I'm their only child. So, you know, the one getting the good grades in school, graduating with
one.
Yeah, the responsible one. They were dependent on me for the point where I was 7 years old up to now, doing their checkbooks, interpreting English to them, going to their appointments, making their appointments, doing their applications. So I was always, my parents always depend on me. So I felt comfortable when
Depending
someone else
on.
was
needing you, right?
But there was a point where, just like he went through unemployment, there was a point where I hated the job that I was in. I quit, and I didn't know where to turn to, but he was there.
Right.
So I depended on him emotionally because I couldn't depend on my parents, because I didn't want to make them feel disappointed in their only child that they saw perfect in their eyes. So with him, I can be as vulnerable as I can.
Yes.
I can be silly, I can be stupid. I enjoy singing good and bad. If they're listening to me, not judging me. So I depend on him in that aspect.
And that's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
That's not a bad
what I was
thing.
saying. There's good and there's bad. You know, you definitely want to recognize that, like you have, but also being the only child and being the responsible one, you kind of develop some traits of controllingness. Like you want to like control the situation as well sometimes, because you probably feel like if you're the one who's in the driver's seat, you can't crash. You know, things can't burn. But then with the relationship, it's different. You know, you have to give him the encouragement to want to do things on his own. You know, to say, hey, babe, you know, I know you want me to do this for you. I know that I would love to do it for you. I don't mind helping you because I'm confident in you and I know that you can get it done too. And encourage him that way, and, you know, just so that there's a balance and you know that it's healthy.
Right.
Whereas, you know, you're already used to having people rely on you, and in some sense you've developed some codependency traits yourself. So what you want to do is you want to be able to recognize it and then create that balance.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. It was a pleasure having you. And Lisa, before we go, let's talk about the new project that you're working on, Stripping Down. Ooh, let's do it.
Stripping down.
All the men just went real, just real somewhere in their heads just now. Let's talk about that.
Stripping Down, a blogger's diary. I pretty much took all of my blogs, my relationship blogs, and I comprised them into one book. Now the book, you know, a lot of people are gonna get a little angry with me, but my book is for the ladies because I want to strip them down.
Boom, right in the head.
Women are getting me angry. And I say that because we're allowing a lot of nonsense. We are just allowing so much. And in 2018, women are getting cheated on and women are staying with these men.
Well, let's not, what we won't do is bash my brothers because, I'm here with you and I support you 100%. But let's not forget, there are some horrible women out there cheating. Well, no, I'm not. I'm just gonna be real. I know that some men are, you know, they're not good. I know that, but don't say, we can't sit here and say that women are all that because they aren't.
I never said that women didn't.
There's some real good men out here.
There's a lot of good men out here. The sad part about it is good men are keeping their morals and their knowledge to themselves, because if a good man is amongst a group of men who, you know, friends, let's so to speak, who are, you know, jerks and douchebags. A good man will watch his best friend cheat on his woman while they're probably out at a function and not intervene, right?
But so wouldn't the lady,
But they won't intervene. They won't intervene. And what that does is it creates this toxic cycle. And then the good brothers are like, well, I'm a good brother, you know, and the girls don't like me or blah, 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 blah. But then you're a good brother, so why aren't you paying it forward? Why aren't you saying, you know what, my friend, you're a douchebag, but this is not the way to go. You know, intervene, because each one teach one. So what's happening is you're watching your friend cheat on a girl. That girl's gonna get heartbroken. That girl's gonna go around now and say that men are not, you know.
Right.
And then she's gonna tell her friends, and then her friends are gonna tell friends, and then they're probably getting dogged out too. So we're creating this toxic cycle, and then good guys like you, by the time he gets a girl or try to get a girl, she done been hurt by the same man who you watched cheat on his girl.
But what about the girl who cheats and her friend? Wait, I'm not deflecting. I'm just being honest, because if we're gonna talk about one, we're gonna talk about the other one. What about the girl who hides the other girl and the guy she's cheating with in the same house? Let's talk about that though.
This is why my book Stripping Down. I'm stripping ladies down. I'm coming for their necks.
Okay.
Because
all right.
I want women to. Cheating is disgusting.
Across the board, yes.
Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. You're not happy, you leave. And if you can't leave, then keep it in your pants and figure something out. Prepare for your exit.
And we all can leave.
We all can leave.
But that's another topic for another show. I don't want to get off topic, but I thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Please, everyone, get Covenant. It's out everywhere, and Stripping Down will be out soon. She'll let you know more about that. We'll be right back with Courtney's Corner. Ivy. So for those who may not know who this beautiful musician is, her name is Ivy Soto. Good chords. So when did you start playing?
I started playing piano as a child. I was 3 years old. I grew up in a warehouse that my parents rented out practice rooms to bands for. So I was always surrounded by music.
So how many instruments do you play?
Around 4. Piano's my main. I also play the organ.
Uh-oh.
The violin.
Praise him.
The guitar.
Yes, Lord. Oh, okay. So do you teach? Do you?
That's something I should consider.
Yes, because you need to teach me, because these, I want to learn. I've always wanted to learn how to play the piano. That's my favorite. I would ask you to do it right now, but we're running out of time. But I just wanted to thank you so much for coming. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about where they can find more about you?
Absolutely. I have a Facebook page that I need to upload some more content onto. But I am there. I'm under Ivy Soto, Ivysoto.
Do you have an Instagram for them?
Instagram. I don't.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I thank Lisa Stevenson for coming by. Please get her book, Covenant. I thank Patricia and Diego. Thank you so much. And once again, congratulations. Codependency has been referred to as a disease of lost self. Codependent relationships sometimes can either tear you apart or bring you closer together. Let's take this episode and find ways to either get out of these situationships or allow ourselves room to be honest with ourselves, because that will create inner peace. Thank you so much for joining in, and you'll see us next on the season finale of Courtney's Corner.